Want to send your kids to the Ivy Leagues? Well, you better start prepping now. Joining us here on set is Jamie Beaton, Crimson Education CEO. Crimson Education is a year-long program that prepares your kids to apply to an Ivy League school at ages, as young as 11. Jamie, okay, that's a lot of work. Look, you got some Ivy League folks on this set, but also some folks looking at what's going on in Ivy League campuses these days and saying, I don't really know if you ought to care so much about getting into these places, but you say you should. Why?
Look, I grew up in New Zealand with a single mother. Going to Harvard transformed every facet of my life. It took me from New Zealand to Wall Street. I worked for an amazing titan of Wall Street, Julian Robertson. He then invested in my company. I was able to grow Crimson from a small company in New Zealand to a global enterprise. So I think what I see with my thousands of students that go to these top US universities is these are opportunity creators to the most amazing companies in America like Tesla, Blackstone, and beyond.
Here, Julian Robertson, you're a little Tiger Cub then, right? Coming off some of those.
A mini Kiwi one. Yeah.
There we go. Some people, though, were questioning if there are new Ivies. Are there?
Definitely. There's a lot of schools actually, based on some of the conflicts on campus, schools like Duke and Vanderbilt that have actually handled these protests really well have been really soaring in the eyes of many parents. UChicago is another one. Today, UChicago actually has a higher yield rate than many of the top schools like Harvard and Stanford. So there is new Ivies, or the Ivy Plus schools, as we call it in the industry.
But there's always been Ivy Plus. There also is a new tier of schools emerging because you've got people like Elon Musk saying an Ivy League degree isn't necessarily worth it. A four-year university may not necessarily be worth it. We're talking about other kinds of schools that are teaching programs in capitalism. We're talking about community colleges. We're talking about trade schools. Those are emerging as well. Now, I would push back and say those will never be Ivies just by definition or second-tier Ivies, but they are emerging as something else.
They're very powerful. And you think about boot camp companies like, for example, General Assembly, training folks in data science and AI, very valuable. But if you're a curious, ambitious student in America today, going to a place like a Stanford or a Harvard is still the biggest accelerant for opportunity. We see folks that go to Stanford and head off to companies like Tesla, and these are the places these top companies are recruiting from year after year.
Wow. I have a one-year-old. Do I need to get started now?
They can chill for a while.
Okay.
At 5,
You gotta have a little, you gotta have good mental health, too.
I get 4 more years.
Jamie, great stuff. Thanks for being with us today. We appreciate it.